Hello and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Brad Sellers. I'm the tall guy who happens to serve as the mayor of the city of Warrensville Heights. A post previously held by today's speaker, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, Democratic representative of the Ohio 11th Congressional District. Marcia Fudge became Congresswoman almost 5 years ago, shortly after the death of her predecessor and mentor, Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones. She's now in her third consecutive term and was unanimously elected last year chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. The Congresswoman is a Greater Cleveland native, alum of Shaker Heights High School and Cleveland Marshall College of Law. Marcia Fudge has also led the way in Warrensville Heights. In 2000, she became the first woman and first African-American mayor of the city of Warrensville Heights. And during her term, she has focused heavily on rebuilding the city's economy. I've thanked her for that many times before, and again, I'd like to thank her again today. She has put in place many of the projects that now are bearing fruit into today's city. She has continued to work on the larger scale in Congress, working on to curb housing foreclosures, introducing legislation to fight predatory lending practices, and requiring lenders to communicate better with lenders before entering into foreclosure. Marcia Fudge is currently Ohio's second one of two African-American congressional representatives, and thanks to the redistricting process, she now represents not only Greater Cleveland, but Greater Akron as well. She represents a diverse constituency from one of the poorest cities in the nation to also affluent communities, and also inclusive of many different ethnic and religious backgrounds. Currently, Marcia Fudge currently sits on the Agricultural Committee and Education and Workforce Committee. She is a past president of the mighty sorority Delta Sigma Theta. And a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues, and perhaps most vitally, the Congressional Rock and Roll Caucus. I'm hoping she's going to explain exactly what they do. Let me say this. I am pleased at this time to have one of our nation's leaders, not just this region's leader, one of our nation's leaders. And with her national recognition and political inner circle, she's a person poised to take this region to the place that I think it needs to go. I do have to say that also that I would be remiss if I did not say that this region is on the rise, not only for what Congresswoman Fudge has done and is doing, but we also have to acknowledge the actions of Mayor Frank Jackson and his efforts in the city of Cleveland. I kidded the mayor. I know I'm in a big city now. I can't get a parking space close. So let me say this. I'm pleased to welcome back to the City Club my mentor, my friend, my sister, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate you. Did great. Good afternoon. First, let me say to Annie, one thing I learned a long time ago, if we were all the same, the world would be such a boring place. So let's just appreciate our difference, and you were fabulous. I told her before she got up, I said, don't make it tough for me to follow you. And she said, oh, I won't. Not true, Annie. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Especially I have my family, my friends, community leaders, elected officials, my staff. I think that covers everyone. So again, thank you all for being here today. Certainly have to mention Congressman Stokes, and I'm not going to mention everybody, but I'm doing that because he led the way for me in Congress, and so I thank him for being here as well today. It is always a privilege to speak here because it really is one of the enduring institutions in our community. Cleveland has many firsts, as you know. We were the place where the first successful coronary bypass operation was performed, the first unassisted triple play in a World Series, where Garrett Morgan invented the gas mask and the traffic signal. This is the year that we celebrate 75 years of Jerry Siegel and Mr. Schuster for creating the Man of Steel. And here at the Citadel of Free Speech, the City Club celebrates 100 years in its pursuit of truth, justice, and the American way. It is the home of free and enlightening speech, and it is my pleasure to be here, and I congratulate you on 101 years of service to this community. I'm going to talk just a bit about the 11th Congressional District. You know, it's much larger now that we've had redistricting. Whether you like it or not, it's much larger. I have a district now that goes from the U.S.-Canadian border in Lake Erie to Summit County in Akron. I opened a second district office in Akron just this year. And from west to east, the district spans from the Cleveland border with Lakewood to Euclid to the Lake County line. The district is comprised of 32 cities, towns, and villages, and is home to more than 700,000 people. The 2011 census estimates that the population breaks down 54% African American, 40% white, 2.2% Asian, and about 3.6% Hispanic. 1 out of every 7 residents in this district is age 65 or older. But approximately 200,000 people in this district are 19 years of age or older, or younger. And so I'm just so very pleased to embrace the diversity of the people in this district. I think that it is probably the most diverse district in the United States, and it truly is representative of the American story. And so I thank you all for putting your support and confidence in me. Now let's talk about what's happening in the district. Some segments of our community, as you know, are doing well. Some, however, continue to struggle. We live in a time where hard work no longer guarantees a good quality of life. We need opportunity for all people in this district. Now, we show great strength and innovation in certain areas of our community. Let's just take, for example, that the federal SBA, in this first 7 years of this fiscal year, and you know the fiscal year for us starts in October, in the first 7 months of this year, they have already given grants awards of more than $37 million, which is $5 million more than they did all of last year combined. So people are doing things. In Akron, the Akron Global Business Accelerator is the best it has been in 29 years and has received an award standing out amongst the 11 Edison incubators in the state of Ohio. The April unemployment rate, which is the last numbers we have in the state of Ohio, are at 7.5%, as is the nation. But when you look at African Americans, it's over 13%. And when you look at Hispanics, it is over 9%. So why is this the case? There are many reasons. But certainly as it relates to minorities, when we continue to shed government jobs, it hurts minority populations in particular because there is more of a concentration of minorities in the public sector than it is for the general population. So that's one of the issues that we find as we continue as a federal government to cut resources that are needed for our communities. And I'm going to get to that cutting money in a minute. Some employers clearly are reluctant to hire people who have been unemployed for a long time. And in our communities, especially our urban communities, that is the case for many people. And so rather than to say that, you know, we don't want you, we'll say, you know, if you've been unemployed for a long time, something must be wrong with you. As opposed to saying to them, you've been unemployed for a long time, so you must really want a job, let me give it to you. One of the other reasons is that good jobs are elusive for people who have no transportation. This is not a New York or a Chicago. We still do a lot by car. And so it's very difficult in some instances for people to even get to a good job. And then there's always the cost of trying to get the education and or the training you need for good jobs in this community. The median income in the district is $32,000 a year. $32,000, which some people would say is good. But think about it. Half the people make more than that and half less. And those people who make less make an awful lot less, because we have some very high pockets of very well-off people in this community. So let me get to how we talk about what we're doing with budgets. Now, I know that, and I tell my colleagues this, and that's probably, I'm starting to become friends with some of my Republican colleagues. I have finally convinced them that, yes, I am a social liberal, and everyone knows it. But having been the mayor of a city, I am a fiscal conservative. See, they've never been able to figure that those two things exist, but they do. And I'm one of those people, even though I voted against the sequester. Now, everybody has heard about the sequester. Let me just tell you real simple what it is. It's across-the-board cuts. Why they came up with such a stupid name, I have no idea. It's just across-the-board cuts. They're cutting equally between defense and non-defense discretionary, up to a total of $85 billion. $85 billion. And so, when you look at the fact that we keep talking about needing to stimulate our economy, you can't do it when you make a decision that ultimately reduces those people working by 750,000 jobs. So all you do is create a bigger problem, in my opinion. But you see, I can add and subtract. Some of my colleagues cannot. And so they think to cut 750,000 jobs out of the market is a good thing. All we're doing is creating a worse environment for what they keep calling entitlements. And let me tell you something. All that stuff is not entitlements, unless you think about the fact that if I work 40 years, I'm entitled to my Social Security. Let me go back. Let me go back. I'm going back, I'm sorry. Federal unemployment insurance benefits are going to be reduced as a result of the sequester by 16%. And for most people in the state of Ohio, that's about $50 a week. But if you are a person that lives on food stamps, and the average person on food stamps gets an allotment of about $42 a week, you're already under your allotment. You can't live on those kinds of resources. Sequester is also cutting things all across the board. Let me just talk about things like research labs, which nobody thinks about, restrooms being cleaned. Local colleges and universities, such as Case Western Reserve and Akron University, are reporting longer and longer wait times for approvals that they can't get from places like NIH and NSF. These federal departments and agencies plan on reducing the number of grants, if you can get a grant at all. And let me tell you how huge that is in this very district. It's a big deal here because this district receives 40%, 40% of all of the funding from NIH in the state of Ohio. You know how many research jobs that is? You know how many buildings that is? But that's what happens in this district, and I congratulate our institutions because they are, in fact, some of the best. Look at something as simple as the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is the 10th busiest national park in the country, if you didn't know that. They've been forced to absorb a $600,000 budget cut this year because of sequester. So the park is not going to be cleaning the restrooms very often, so just word to the wise when you go. And they're going to delay major purchases because they understand that they have to live within these constraints. And the other thing they're doing, which I think is so sad, is that they're going to reduce by 35 the number of young people they're going to hire for the summer. Kids that have an opportunity to learn the value of hard work as well as to get valuable work experience and save money for college. These are the things that hurt, but let me tell you what it's going to hurt even more. Education. When you speak about lost opportunities, nowhere is that evident more in healthcare and or education for our youngest citizens. My district includes some of the most outstanding schools in the country and some of the worst performing schools in the country and everything in between. Now, at my invitation just last month, U.S. Secretary Arnie Duncan came to the district to meet with all of the school superintendents. I have 22 school districts. They came to meet, and they made clear to him that all of the unfunded mandates coming from the federal government are hurting them no matter what level they are. Education is the pathway out of poverty. It is the great equalizer. And if we don't start to provide the kind of education to our children, we have lost this fight. Higher education we know is needed for all of the high-skilled jobs that are coming in the 21st century. But if we don't invest in our children, we will have shortchanged our economy, our national security, and our children's future by depriving them of the opportunity to be all they can be. Now, before students can even reach college, there are some things we must do. We have to feed kids. Food insecurity is a reality in this country. I don't care what these people say to you. All of these people who do not believe there are hungry people have their eyes closed. And I will take them to a neighborhood any day. But see, they don't want to come with me. Although all they have to do is go in their own districts and see it, but they don't want to see it. And so as long as they don't want to see it, they feel like it's okay to cut $20 billion from food stamps out of the farm bill. $20 billion. They feel like it's okay to cut funding for food banks. And I say, who are these people? Where do these people live? Not in my America. Because I know that there are people who are doing well, as I said earlier. But anytime a child goes to school hungry, what do you expect for them to learn? Now, y'all can look at me and tell I don't miss a lot of meals. But when I'm hungry, I can't think. So think about if you're hungry every day. Think if you don't know when you get home what you're going to eat. And so they will say to me, Marcia, that can't be right because you're always talking about obesity. I said, that's true. But those two things really go hand in hand. If all you eat is foods that are high in sugar or carbohydrates, you are going to be overweight. And if you are hungry and the only thing close to your house is a fast food restaurant or the corner store, what are you going to eat? And so they really do go together. But I have a real hard time convincing my colleagues that in this district alone, 1 in every 4 people I represent lives in poverty. And 40% of them are children. And so I can understand that if they believe that people are just lazy, and that's what they tell me all the time, Marcia, we're not going to help lazy people. I said, what do these children do to you? What do these senior citizens do to you who can't eat a meal every day? Tell me what they did to you. And they don't have an answer for that. I'm going to stop. Let me go to agriculture, because I'm also on the agriculture committee. And I talked just a bit about food stamps and the cuts to food stamps. But also, just last week, as we talked about how we infuse more fruits and vegetables into school meals, I introduced a bipartisan bill, as a matter of fact, with my colleague from Central Ohio, Steve Stivers, called the School Nutrition Flexibility Act, which will allow schools to make some adjustments to what the federal government is requiring them to do. You see, we don't do a good job of it either when we mandate to schools what they must serve. Anytime you can put 2 scoops of tomato sauce on a piece of bread and call it a vegetable, something is wrong with that. But that's what we do. That's our problem. We don't give schools the kind of equipment, especially refrigeration equipment, to be able to keep things like fresh fruits and vegetables. So everything is processed, everything is handed out. We have to do better. And we also know that fruits and vegetables are a lot more expensive than a hamburger or a Big Mac. And so if you're trying to feed kids, what do? You buy things that are going to fill them up. But I'm going to say this to parents today. It's okay if that's the best you can do, but you don't buy 5-year-olds a Big Mac. Buy them a Happy Meal. When we allow children to be unhealthy, it's not the children's fault, it is ours. Tell your schools you want physical education back in your schools. Because we have children that live in neighborhoods. We have children who live in neighborhoods where there's no place for them to play. They're afraid to walk the streets, and then you won't let them have recess. Find a way. We all pay taxes to our local schools. Tell them that is what you want. People don't pay attention to school boards. Pay attention. Because they have a lot of responsibility over how our children do in schools. But anyway, back to my bill. The bill addresses the lack of healthy and affordable food in urban areas through agricultural programs. I have been privileged to have fought for and obtained a pilot program to build hoop houses in the poorest neighborhoods of our community. We're going to build 22 hoop houses by the end of this summer, and the people who they will be next to, who have adjacent properties, have agreed to grow fresh vegetables and give them to people in their neighborhoods. And now everybody else in Congress wants to do what I did. So they're calling the USDA, say, we want to do what Marcia Fudge did. I said, tell them no. It is a sense of pride for these people now to be able to say, I can grow fresh fruits and vegetables in my own backyard. The children in the neighborhood have some real sense of, this is mine. And they understand what it means to get your hands dirty and work hard. And so I'm very proud of it. It may not seem like a lot now, but when you see more and more of these, you're going to be impressed. You're also going to be impressed by the fact that Cleveland and our neighborhoods is the fastest growing market in the country for urban agriculture. The fastest one. I mean, not only do we have hoop houses, we've got Green City Growers, who provided some of your food today, which is the largest greenhouse in an urban neighborhood in the United States. This venture got off the ground with federal resources that I supported through new market tax credits, and recently won a National Development Council Award as the most innovative job creation project. We have our own urban agricultural zones. We've got Cleveland crops for all of you who grow all this food, tomatoes, do all things, and then you want to can it and don't have any place to take it because you want to store all of it at your house. They have now created, y'all laughing, but you know it's the truth. They have now created the opportunity for you to can or process your food and store it in their facilities. And they've already hired 40 disabled residents to take care of that process. I think that's great. I know I'm going to jump around a bit because there's some things that I just want to say, and I'm going to now talk about veterans, which is always a sad point for me. We have 47,000 veterans in this district, and the way we treat our veterans is just unacceptable. We've got kind of what I call the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that the Lewis Stokes Cleveland VA Medical Center has undergone a tremendous renovation and expansion. It now serves more than 105,000 veterans every year. The bad is that the number of veterans who are not able to fully take advantage of these services because they're waiting for their claims to be processed. Now, let me give you some numbers that I think are going to be really ugly. Today, the average time to complete a claim nationwide is 286 days. 286 days. The Cleveland VA, it takes 382 days. And the national wait for a first-round appeal ruling is over 1,000 days. We literally have veterans who are dying, waiting to get the benefits that they deserve. And something has to be done about it. So last month, big mouth me, I met with Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Eric Shinseki. He, a couple of other members of Congress, we sat down and we talked to him about what has to be done with our VAs. And to his credit, he has announced since that meeting several initiatives. One that is going to create a policy where all Veterans Administration's offices have to start with their oldest cases first. Which if you think that makes basic sense, but that ain't what they do. And so that's the first thing. The other thing is he is requiring mandatory overtime to start to get those cases out of the backlog, and has promised that by 2015 he's going to do it, and I personally will stay on him until he does. But let me just say to you all that caring for veterans is not just the federal government's job. It is all of our jobs. They have given up so much of their lives for our freedoms. We all have a responsibility to do something about it. We'll talk about housing for a minute. You know that in Cuyahoga County last year, there were 11,427 new foreclosures. And this is according to a study by Policy Matters. If we had taken care of the housing and the foreclosure crisis early on, we'd be much further along as a nation. Even though we are getting better, we'd be much further along. Cuyahoga County has the highest foreclosure rate in Ohio. 9 foreclosures for every 1,000 residents. Summit County, 7 foreclosures for every 1,000 residents. It is also in the top 10. And so again, with my colleagues Dave Joyce and Marcia Fudge, we introduced a bill called the Restore Our Neighborhoods Act, which is going to try to allow cities like Cleveland or Warrensville or whoever it may be to have funds to start to at least tear down some of these vacant and building and dilapidated buildings, because it does a number of things. One, it allows us to improve our property values so that you're not living next to an abandoned, burnt-out house. It gives us green space. It stops some of the crime that these houses attract. But let me just tell you how crazy this government is, really. In 2010, the state of Ohio, because it had been hit early by foreclosure, received $570 million in what is called hardest hit funds through the stimulus, $570 million. That money was not set aside for demolition, but we received that money to help people who are underwater, to do refinances, to do a lot of things. Today, almost 3 years later, you know how much money is still sitting in Columbus? $400 million. So I'm saying to myself, we fight for this money. We send it to the state of Ohio for you to just like draw interest on it. We need to do something about it, and you need to say something about it. See, once we get it to the state, my hands are off. But you live here. Tell the governor, tell your state reps and whoever they are, we want the money. It's there. We need to use it. And, you know, I'm so sorry, Senator. I'm so sorry, Senator. I see two senators sitting here. I don't mean to just like blast you all, but don't y'all call my office with that. Call them. I want to talk just a bit about health care very quickly as well. We know that Medicaid expansion, which the governor actually wants, he's the only responsible adult up there in that majority. That's what he wants, and he is right. There is no moral or economic reason that can be defended for them not to take the Medicaid expansion. Just give you an example. Metro Health Medical Center received a waiver. And so with that waiver, they are now able to offer health coverage to low-income, uninsured residents of this county. So the program really works very similar to what Medicaid expansion would do. It pays for primary care visits, for doctor's visits, for medications, and durable medical equipment. And since February, Metro Health has signed up 20,000 previously uninsured residents and anticipates signing up another 10,000. If we could do that with the state, it would be great. But see, the state is looking for a problem where there isn't one. So they say, the federal government has said, we're going to pay for this for 3 years at 100%. And so what the state says is, oh, for 3 years you're going to pay 100%? Well, what happens in the fourth year? What if you don't have the money in the fourth year? If somebody told you they were going to pay your mortgage for 3 years, what would you tell them? That's basic common sense, right? Teach them how to add and subtract, please. Even if we don't pay it in the fourth year, for 3 years. These people are so silly. I'm going to talk about the Affordable Care Act just a quick moment. Obamacare, if y'all don't know what this is actually called. We call it Obamacare too, because we know Obama cares. And so we call it Obamacare. I'm going to say to you that, you know, full implementation comes in 2014, and so the sign-up period is, the enrollment period is in October. Tell people who you know need to sign up to sign up. They've given me the signal, and I don't want to be gonged, and so I'm going to just say a couple of things that I think are going to be so important to all of us. Yes, I work in a dysfunctional government. Yes, I work at a time in Congress where there is a lot of vitriol and very few people trying to make friends. I work in a place where no one believes that we are going to do the right thing. But let me just say to you this. We've gone through hard times in this country before. And I, in fact, do believe in the promise of America. We still live in the best nation in the world. Every other country measures themselves by us. And so let's not be so hard on ourselves. There are a lot of things I'd like to see us do differently, but this is still my country. And I am proud to be an American. I want to say that we're going to right the ship. I don't know if I'll be in Congress when we do, but we're going to do it. And so give us the ability to do what needs to be done, but don't sit by idly and let us try to figure it out all by ourselves. Make your voices heard. It is important. And I want to say to you in closing, and I'm going to go back to where I started, I'm not a superhero like the Man of Steel, but I do have nerves of steel. And when it comes to working for you, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that I can meet your needs. It is my honor and my privilege to serve you. Thank you. God bless. Thank you.
Today at the City Club, we're listening to a Friday forum featuring the Honorable Marcia Fudge, Congresswoman for the Ohio's 11th Congressional District. We will return to our speaker momentarily for our traditional City Club questions. We encourage you to formulate your questions for our speaker now and remind you that your questions should be brief and to the point. We welcome all of you here and those listening on WCPN 90.3 FM, WCLV, WTAM, or one of the many radio stations across the country. Our television broadcast partners are WVIZ, PBS, Idea Stream. Television broadcasts of the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Our live webcast is supported by the University of Akron. Next Friday, June 7th, the City Club welcomes Steve Millard, President and Executive Director of COSI, the Council for Smaller Enterprises. On June 19th, the City Club welcomes Marcia Maccabee, President and CEO of the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. And for information about our upcoming forums, please refer to our website, www.cityclub.org. If you wish to make a reservation for upcoming programs or order a CD or DVD of today's programs, please call 1-888-223-6786 or 216-621-0082. We are pleased to welcome guests today at tables hosted by Baker Hostetler, the Cleveland Clinic, Cleveland State University, Cuyahoga Community College, the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party, G2G Consulting, Kent State University, Key Bank, Labor's Local 860, Marcia Fudge for Congress, Metro Health, the NAACP, Sisters of Charity Health System, and University Hospitals. Thank you all for your support. Today's forum is sponsored by the Sisters of Charity Health System. Join us today at the head table are Sister Judith Ann Karam and Talange Thomas. Will you both please stand and be recognized? Thank you so much for your support. Today is the Peter De Leon Forum on Local Politics, made possible by a generous donation endowment gift by Peter De Leon. Joining us at the head table is Peter De Leon's daughter, Paulette Novak. Will you also please stand and be recognized? Thank you as well for your support. Students from Cleveland Heights High School and Horizon Academy are here today as part of the City Club student program. Today's student attendance is made possible by a gift from the Jeffrey David Epstein Student Memorial Fund. Students are watching in an adjoining room and will have the opportunity to meet with the Congresswoman directly after the forum. Now we would like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding today's microphone is Development Associate Michael Cromaldi and City Club Program Director Carrie Miller. First question, please.
Congressman is one of your constituents. Thank you very much for your great service.
Mayor, how are you?
Fine. Also, may I also compliment you on your great Cleveland staff. Anita Gray is a gem. She represents you very well.
Thank you.
You, in all of the issues are going on today, so much of this polarization is causing so many problems and deadlock and gridlock in Washington. And when we face these debt ceiling situations like that, how do we deal with it? What would you do if Speaker Boehner and Minority Leader Pelosi were to call you into their office and say, look, enough's enough, we must rise above this from the two extremes on both sides, and let's solve this problem. What would be your recommendation of how we solve the gridlock?
First is to not to have the two of them in the room. I didn't say it. No, I think that leadership looks at things differently than like people at my pay grade. And so, honestly, truly, Mayor, this is what I really think should happen. And actually, we are doing it. We're getting groups of Democrats and Republicans to sit down and just talk to each other. Something that I started with one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. See, the other thing is, what I have figured out is it is very difficult for people who like you to really be nasty with you. And so I may just walk over there and just like hug one of them. It's true. Congressman can tell you, if you ask a Republican what Democrats they know, I guarantee you I'm in their top 3 to 5. Because I make it a point to let them know, even though we might disagree philosophically, we all have the same job and we're all here to do the same job. And so I think we're really doing it now. But, leadership has different ways of looking at things. But we're going to get there, Mayor. I promise you we are. We really are. But the other thing is, tell them, learn science. Understand that science does really exist in the world. And so there's such a thing as climate change, and there's such a thing as the other stuff.
Congresswoman, thank you for your service. We are well represented in this district.
Thank you.
You have clearly articulated the needs of our community, both the breadth and the depth of all those needs, and the legitimacy of the funding required for those needs. But the national debt looms large. And if all the proposed cuts occur, we still don't tackle, we really don't significantly impact the national debt. So you've talked about one side of the equation in terms of cut, but we can't cut our way there. What's the other side of that equation?
Well, this is what people don't understand. And I'm going to try to make it as, I try to make things simple for myself. And so if you start out making $50,000 a year, and you buy a house, which you can afford at $50,000, at $100,000, let me just use a number, and then all of a sudden your salary drops to $30,000. What do you do? But that is what has happened, in fact, with the federal government. When we were doing well, and primarily, and I'm not trying to be at all political, but the last time we really did well was in the Clinton administration. We were taking in tax revenue up to 22% of GDP. It's down to 17. So you have to find a way to make up the gap. I'm one of the people that believes that you balance it and you don't do it all on the back of one group of people or another. Like you don't do it all on everybody hates corporations. I don't. I was a mayor. I understand the need for business. But what I don't understand is why do you need to have a tax break on your second house, on your vacation home? Why do you need to have a tax break on your yacht? Why do oil companies who are making more money than ever before need money from us? I'm on the agriculture committee. Why do we still need to pay people to not grow food? And so I'm saying that there are ways we can do it, but we're going to have to raise some taxes. And I don't care what anybody says. You can't continue to fund the government at this level and only be taking in this much money. No business in the world does that. And then they'll say to you, this is how they trick you. They'll say, we have to live like the American people live in their house. We can only have what we can afford. And so I ask people, you have a car? Did you pay cash for it? Then you borrowed some money from somewhere, right? You paid it back. We pay our bills back too. You own a house? Did you pay cash for it? No. Well, if you did, I want to come live with you. But if you didn't, we borrowed money and we paid it back. That is what the federal government does too. We invest in the future of America. And so have we borrowed too much money? Yes. But every economist every legitimate economist today will tell you that we need a short-term stimulus and a long-term debt reduction plan. You can't cut when we were already in this very sensitive position. That's why cutting 750,000 jobs is just going to make the problem worse, not make the problem better. But we have some people that believe that you just cut until it's something they want. So now they want to come back and add $28 billion to the defense. But where's that come from? Cutting $28 billion more from non-discretionary, from things like SNAP and WIC and school lunches and Title I and Head Start. So don't believe that they're doing what they think is right. Just they want what they want. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming, Congressman. As a retired public employee, since 2005, I saw my contribution go up 1.5%, and also the last pension revisions cut the benefits, cut my Medicare Part B pickup, cut the COLAs. I just wonder, what is Congress going to do to fix Social Security and Medicare, and the need to eliminate the doctor's fix for Medicare, which is let's kick it down the road and not solve the problem? Thank you.
You said you're a public employee. Are you in PRS?
Retired.
But are you in PRS?
Yes.
Okay. Which is very different now. Okay. Because federal government don't have anything to do with PRS. Okay. But Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, that's what's being discussed now. That's been the whole battle. But let me tell you what we should do with Social Security. Now, this is my own personal opinion. We ought to raise the cap to $250,000. Right now, you pay payroll tax up to $113,000. I don't know a whole lot of people that make $113,000, but I know some. But those same people I know that make $113,000, I know that if they paid Social Security up to $250,000, it's not going to kill them. It's not that much money. But it would make it solvent forever. And the other thing, let me say to you, is that Social Security is not the problem with the budget today. Social Security is still solvent for the next almost 25 years. Do we need to do something with it and not wait till the last minute? Yeah, we do. Yes, we do. But it is not really a part of this budget discussion. Now, as it relates to Medicare and Medicaid, they are problems. There's no question about it. The president has already put on the table that he is willing to change Medicare. And nobody really is fighting about Medicaid. So you're really only talking about Medicare. Because people understand that Medicaid is probably the most effective way to to give poor people health care that we can ever find. It's one of the most efficiently run programs we have. So your real issue is Medicare, right? The president has already said that he's willing to make changes to it. But we can't even get people to sit down and go into a conference on the budget. Now, I might fight with the president about what he wants to do with Medicare. But he's put it on the table. And I think that most of the people in the caucus probably will be supportive of it. But at this very minute, I'm not willing to change Social Security. That's just me. Oh, Lord. Be nice.
Okay.
This is one of my friends. I can do that to her.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman. I'm Kathy Ray Coleman, a local journalist, ClevelandUrbanNews.com and the Imperial Women. Let me congratulate you and the City Club on this forum. We are concerned about the recent abduction of Gina DeJesus, Amanda Berry, and Michelle Knight, the murders of 11 black women on Imperial Avenue, and the recent rapes and murders of 3 women on the East Side. And on the heels of the renewal of the Violence Against Women Act, we need to know where that money is going. Now, it's coming to the county, but it's not being used like we think it should be used. What can the federal government do to help these women across racial lines, and what kind of resources can you bring into the city? And we would like a missing persons bureau, not just manned by the police, but manned in cooperation with the community. And then my last question would be, how do you feel about the red light cameras that we picketed on, let me just say this in closing, that disproportionately targets the black community, and do you believe it's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment?
Let me say a number of things. The courts have already ruled that it's not so. It really doesn't make any difference what my opinion is. I don't like getting tickets. So I hate red light cameras like everybody else, but they are legal based upon what the law says. I don't know that it disproportionately targets people in poor, because I don't know what the numbers are.
Not whether they're legal, but whether disproportionately targeting the black community is a violation of the Equal Protection Act.
If it does, but I don't have any data to suggest that it does. But if it does, and as it relates to violence against women, it took us like 18 months to get the thing passed. What we do with the federal government is we actually, once we pass these things and we send resources to local governments, whether it be state or county, we really don't have a lot of control over it after that once it gets there. But this is, Kathy, what can happen is if you know that those resources aren't being spent or not being spent appropriately, then you need to notify my office, because then I can come back and say you are not in compliance with the terms for which you receive these dollars. So that we can do. And I do want to thank you for continuing to stay on this violence against women. We in this country, we do not treat women with the same kind of respect that I believe we should. And I think we all have to be aware of not only how we raise our children, but especially how we raise our men. So I thank you for that question. I was one of the people that fought very hard to get VAWA passed. I'm glad it passed, and we're gonna stay on it. And I thank you for staying with that.
Hi, Congresswoman. I run a computer company. I teach kids how to make computer games, and so we're very strong behind the STEM initiatives and coding. And as you mentioned, those are what's careers of the future. And I'm trying to figure out what more can I do to help you in I know you're part of the STEM committee. Right. What more can I do? Our company's Fund Mutation. I'm Ted Jordan. What can we do to help push this effort forward here in Cleveland and throughout?
Thank you. That's the first nice question I've had. Thank you so much. STEM is going to be so critical to our country. One of the things that I hope that you can help me do is to convince especially educators that we have to start teaching kids at least by 3rd grade math and science. We can't wait until they're in high school. Now, we've got some great schools. We've got the STEM schools both at the high school level, which is at GE, and the one that we now have I'm looking at a scientist sitting right here, and the one at the Great Lakes Science Center. But the other thing we have to do is find a way to teach young people that science and math are not hard. We have so convinced them by the time they get into middle school and high school that it is too difficult for them to do, that we make the situation worse. I have a bill which I dropped, which I'm hopeful is going to pass, and we're going to create a summer program to bring kids into the whole concept of STEM. If we get it passed, I'm hopeful that you will be a part of that project so that we're going to use people like the Urban League, NAC, groups that kids will feel comfortable with. It's so important. I tell kids all the time, I tell them at 6 and 7 years of age, and they'll say, oh, math is hard. I'll say, what's 2 plus 2? They'll say 4. I say, that's math. It's not that hard. So we have to start to encourage young people, and if this bill passes and we start these programs, I'm really going to need your help and a lot of other people who understand the significance of STEM, because in the next 20 years, 80% of all the good paying jobs in this country will require some STEM background.
Tell them what STEM is.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. It is something that, do you know how many computer scientists we need today? I think the number is we need 100,000, graduate 40,000. And mostly every kid I know can probably build a computer. But they don't think that's computer science. I can barely use it. But they can come in and say, oh, what do you need? So, they do. And so we have to let them know it's not just a title. It's what they do every day. It's just their way of life. I had to tell my staff yesterday. I had told them to call somebody. And so I said, did you call someone? I said, well, I sent him an email. I said, I told you to call him. Because people in my generation don't look at their email every 5 minutes. Call them. Obviously, I work with a lot of young people, right? I don't think there's anybody in my office over 30 in my DC offices, so they think everybody lives like that. Drives me crazy. Okay.
Hello, Congressman,
Hi.
Congresswoman, I'm sorry. Thank you so
Both are correct.
Oh, fair play. Well, thank you so much for your remarks. I also want to thank you for your recent vote on the Keystone Pipeline. You spoke about climate change today and needing to address science, and I want to thank you for those remarks as well. A lot of people in my generation are concerned about climate change as a threat to economic opportunity for all, and I just wanted to ask you how you feel about that sentiment.
I think that all of us are concerned about our environment, and if we're not, we should be. I think that there are ways to do things that protect the environment as well as can produce jobs and do economic development. I think that those things are not mutually exclusive. So I'm with you on that.
Congresswoman, thank you. As a veteran from the community, thank you for all the effort I know you and your staff have put in on numerous veterans initiatives. My question, you mentioned recently you met with Secretary Shinseki, and one of the key points of discussion was this backlog of claims. Did it come to the table in the discussion? He has brought up several times this discrepancy about Department of Defense software cannot talk to VA software, and thus we have this volume of paper records being transferred. Was there any talk about a solution or working with DOD on that issue? Thank you.
Let me just tell you what I said. He did say that. And so my philosophy is if you've known this for a lot, fix it. I don't want to hear the excuse anymore. We've been hearing it for 3 years. The Congress of the United States gave them the money to fix it. And so if you don't have the capacity or the capability to fix it, then tell us so we can put someone there who can. I don't want any more excuses. You saw that other side of me, didn't you?
Thank you, Congresswoman. One of the kind of bad words to spending by Congress is earmarking, and yet that is also the way in which Congress people like yourself bring money to
right.
districts that might not otherwise show up in a general piece of legislation. What's replacing that? Do you think it's being handled fairly? And whatever other comments you might have about that.
I'm a proponent of earmarks. I've got companies sitting in here right now that got their starts through earmarks, sitting in this very room. I didn't build a bridge to nowhere. We helped people. And people who don't sit on the Appropriations Committee or Ways and Means Committee or one of those, we don't have the ability to target resources to areas where we know they need to be targeted. So what we are is at the mercy of now the departments. Okay, so say for instance, instead of me being able to say, City of Cleveland needs money for a road project. This is what it costs. I want you to see if you can direct resources to that. Now the Department of Transportation makes that decision. We kept trying to tell people they're going to be earmarks regardless. We just don't have any control over them anymore. And so now you're in this big Department of Transportation with no one really fighting for you other than your congressperson. And now we're in a situation where they control all the resources, but they don't know my community like I know my community. And so they can't direct the things that are to the best. So what they do is they look at the best written piece of paper and decide that's got to be a good project because it really looks good. It could be the worst of the projects. But if it's coming through me, I know where the needs are. But they don't give us that opportunity anymore, and I hope we get them back. I'm on record as that.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for taking a stand so far on global trade bills, which puts the advantage to working people and the environment instead of to the profit of big corporations. My question is, with the Trans-Pacific Partnership looming on the horizon, which would be the largest trade agreement ever, a real NAFTA on steroids, will you tell us that you will oppose the reinstatement of fast-track authority, which would deprive Congress from amending any bills on trade?
Well, I don't believe I voted for a trade bill yet since I've been there. And I don't know exactly all, I mean, I know about the bill, the trade agreement. I don't know all the things that are in there, so I hate to say I'm just absolutely not going to do it. But 99.9%, I'm not going to be voting for it. Because you never know. You know, we stick all kind of little things in bills. And so I need to be sure that I know what's there, but trust. You can trust me. I'm with you on that one. Sure.
14 years I've known her. I had a chance to work for her, work under her, and I can tell you she's one of the good ones. And for both the men and women in here that like this time of the year, which is the NBA playoffs, I'm gonna bring it to a sports analogy. Those that like Phil Jackson, who I had a chance to play under, that's Phil.
Thank you, Bradley.
Today at the City Club, we've been listening to a Friday forum featuring the Honorable Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, U.S. Representative for Ohio's 11th Congressional District. We'd like to thank you for coming out. We'd like to thank Congresswoman Fudge and thank the young ladies and young gentlemen that have joined us today at the program. I would encourage everyone before you leave today to stand up, make some acquaintances in the room, because there can be no political business being done in Northeast Ohio today, because it looks like every political person is in the